is footage of fans of the Sydney United Football Club chanting a Croatian fascist Ustaše slogan. See, here's a document from World War II about the deportation of 118 Jewish people to Jasenovac concentration camp. It translates to something like for home ready or ready for homeland, you get what I mean? And so that just adds to how ridiculous this is for the fact that these fucking people are in Australia, in New South Wales to be exact. But this is a problem across all of Australia. I have an article I'd like to show you. Croatian sporting clubs with fascist links promised millions in public money, and this is from July the 31st, 2023. State governments have pledged grants worth more than $2 million to Croatian clubs that openly display fascist symbols and commemorate anniversaries linked to the Nazi-backed Ustaše regime of World War II. Governments in Victoria, South Australia and the ACT in the past year have pledged grants to Croatian clubs that display pictures of Ustaše dictator Ante Pavelic on their walls and celebrate the anniversary of the creation of the puppet state. And then we have a picture of South Australian Premier Peter Malalakis pledging $1.5 million to the Adelaide Croatian Sports Centre back in May. The regime is estimated to have killed 500,000 people, including Serbs, Jews and Romani people, and it is widely regarded as having committed genocide. An investigation by this masthead published last month detailed how some key Croatian institutions in Victoria and New South Wales commemorate the regime, prompting condemnation from the Croatian ambassador to Australia, Betty Pavelic, and leading Jewish groups. It also sparked strong interest from the Balkans, and the investigation has since been translated and reproduced or referenced on at least 10 news sites in Croatia, Serbia and Bosnia. Further research by The Age, as well as anti-fascist researchers White Rose Society, show clubs in South Australia and the ACT also have similar fascist paraphernalia. These clubs, along with major soccer clubs in Victoria, have been awarded significant taxpayer-funded grants. And in this article it has this picture here showing a portrait of Ante Pavelic on the walls of the Adelaide Croatian Sports Centre. And that photo is from 2020. And now I would like to also report on this same portrait being in another location. Here I have some photos from the Instagram account of the Croatian club in Adelaide, and I mainly just want to show you the ceiling. Now as you can see here, they have recessed ceilings. See how it goes up again? Well, in front of the bar on one of these parts of the ceiling that goes up again, the portraits are there. And I also found this on their Instagram, confirming that they have recently received government grants. This is no different to if somewhere had a portrait of Hitler on the wall and we found out that they were getting government grants of taxpayer-funded money. Seriously, it's the same fucking thing. It's the same thing. The only difference is the fact that a portrait of Hitler would be recognizable by anybody and called out by everybody. A venue couldn't get away with having a portrait displayed. Certainly not for as long as Croatian clubs have been able to have portraits of Ante Pavelic on the wall. And now I just want to make it abundantly clear that there is no separating the Ustaše, their symbols, their slogans, the letter U, and obviously Ante Pavelic from the fucking Nazis. Just because it's not very well known doesn't mean it's not the fucking reality. And now to explain why I had to make this video and why it's a bit personal for me, I have condensed a old video I've made titled My Fascist Cousin. I was in Croatia with my friends that live there in Zagreb, just having a conversation, and I think the conversation got brought to tattoos, and I spoke about my cousin's tattoos, which is just a letter U. And I remember he showed me when he got it done, and I was like in primary school, so I didn't think much of it, and I just chucked it in the conversation to my Croatian friends, and they looked at me with faces I've never seen them make before, of like shock and horror, and they had to double check what I said said, and once they confirmed and had a bit of a back and forth with each other in Croatian, they turned to me and said, "We think your cousin might be a Nazi." So on a Tuesday at noon, I said to him, "So what's the deal with your U tattoo?" And a little while later he responded with, "What about it?" And I responded to him with, "What does it mean?" He responds with, "Google Ustaše, Croatian army during World War II. So I did what my cousin suggested, and it made me question if he's ever Googled it, because the first thing you see is this. Note the picture in the corner of a drawing of a soldier with the Nazi flag and the Croatian flag. First thing you see on a Google search. This was one of the few videos I could find in English. It's pretty old now. It's from the 90s, but it offers up important information and gives you a bit of a history of what happened.
The so-called independent state of Croatia was created in 1941. Carved from the wreckage of the former kingdom of Yugoslavia. It annexed all of Bosnia and reached east as far as the outskirts of Belgrade, the Yugoslav capital. The puppet state, headed by Ante Pavelić, took its cue from Hitler, lining up alongside Nazi Germany, Italy and Japan. Pavelić's Ustaše ruling party embarked upon its own Nazi-style program of ethnic cleansing, with Jasenovac as its burial ground.
The goal of the Ustaše was to create a state free of minorities, a state, a Croatia, which would have only Catholic Croatians.
The church followed Pavelić's orders to forcibly convert Croatia's Orthodox Christian Serbs to Catholicism.
So there was no hope for anyone who didn't fit the mold of the Croatian Catholic. And the results are clear. They speak for themselves. Mass murder.
The Ustaše used a Catholic monastery within a stone's throw of Zagreb Cathedral as a storehouse for gold and valuables looted from Jasenovac's victims. Buried among bones beneath the monastery floor were carefully inventoried gold teeth, wedding rings, jewelry, watches, and bracelets piled up by Ustaše camp authorities.
Jasenovac was nicknamed the Auschwitz of the Balkans. This was a camp which had perhaps one of the highest numbers of victims for those camps without the apparatus of mass murder. As a result, it was one of the cruelest, harshest, most barbaric camps in Europe during World War II.
I found a video where an author is being interviewed after he's written a book about the camps in Croatia.
The Ustašism is like Nazism, like National Socialism. They were like brothers, like twins for Nazi Germany. Ante Pavelić, the leader, the Führer of Croatia, went very often to Berlin to learn more new systems, so they were very close ideologies. But I have to emphasize that Jasenovac's chain of camps was operated exclusively by the Croats. The Germans visited there, were impressed by it, but even complained that the Croats were too brutal to their taste.
The Germans complained that the Croats were being too brutal.
Funny. It sounds funny, but yeah.
It sounds unbelievable.
Let me give you one example. General von Kleistenau in 1942 visited Jasenovac and wrote a report in which he complained that the methods which he found in Jasenovac were too barbaric, too extreme. Can you imagine?
Extraordinary.
Now I need to give fair warning for what you're going to see in my response to him, because I did what would only make sense and prove that I Googled it, and so I'm about to show you some of the most horrific pictures I've ever shown on this channel. And so the idea behind sending these pictures, other than because I said I would, and also to prove that I Googled them like he suggested, is to kind of infer, like, is this what you're proud of? Is this what you want to represent? And so I sent him pictures of piles of bodies that came up in the search, of people being killed in horrific ways. I sent him pictures of the leader with Hitler and with Mussolini, and of course that picture that came up right up top of the search of the drawing. And then I sent him this bit of this video.
We know that in the independent state of Croatia between 1941 and 1945, 74,762 children under the age of 14 lost their lives.
It's probably the last text message I ever sent to that fascist. Here's a quote from a site that detailed the acts of the Ustaše. They offered their lives in exchange for the mercy of their children. 2 children were placed on the ground while a third was thrown like a ball into the air. Some disgusting Ustaše piece of shit pointing a dagger up missed 3 times, but the 4th time, with a joke and a laugh, the child was impaled on the dagger.